All right, here we are, day 63 of 365 days of meditation. Um, Got up this morning, worked out, meditated after the workout, and practice in total was probably about an hour and 15, something like that. Um, Most of it was spent seated. I think I spent the last about 10 minutes lied down on the floor. So probably about an hour in this chair and about 10 minutes on the floor, lying down. Um, Nothing super eventful. I do find that when sometimes when I'm tired, I feel anxious, and my mind will race a mile a minute in meditation. Other times, like today, I'm tired and my mind will be very quiet. It's almost like it doesn't have the energy to run in circles. Um, so that was today's experience, which was kind of nice. I'm working through an episode of Huberman Lab right now with Sam Harris as the guest, and they're talking about meditation and consciousness. It's an interesting episode, very interesting episode. It's quite long. I've been working on it for about 5 days now, just kind of when I have time in drips and drabs. So I'll post a link to the episode if anyone wants to check it out. My biggest takeaway so far is this idea that when we start to do a meditative practice, mindfulness meditation practice, first, it's different from mantra practices or visualization practices. Sam Harris maybe doesn't quite see those as sort of pure meditation or mindfulness meditation, which is interesting. And then the other thing was that the idea of sitting down in silence and observing your own thoughts from the perspective of consciousness observing the thoughts, so that there's this duality, there's consciousness, and then there's this lower layer that is the thoughts that are the consciousness is observing, is sort of the first phase for a lot of people embarking on a mindfulness meditation practice. And then, but that's not necessarily the deeper layer. And the deeper layer of the mindfulness practice is to experience a sense of sort of non-duality, where the thoughts you are having are you. So it's not that you're watching yourself think, which is not how I had heard is sort of a way to approach meditation. I always heard about it from the approach of observe your thoughts in a detached way as the consciousness. But apparently this deeper layer is to actually somehow understand or experience yourself as the thoughts, and there is no separation. That doesn't mean you're in a reactive state, where you're totally unaware of your thoughts and the reactions you're having. You are experiencing your conscious, I guess you're experiencing your experiences as the consciousness, or the experiences you're having are your consciousness. I don't know how to word it exactly, but yeah, there's no separation between the experience and some observing consciousness that is yourself. It is one. So he talks about also how that carries over in your, or that should carry over. The idea is to, well, not should, maybe is not the word, but ideally it would carry over in your daily life. So not just to have certain experiences in meditation, but then carry them over. I think I kind of already understood that through previous books I've read, and also just sort of experientially. And one of the sort of byproducts of experiencing this non-duality in your meditative practice is that in your day-to-day life, when you are interacting with others, you will be fully engaged in what that other person is saying or whatever it is that you're involved in, without looking at them and simultaneously experiencing them looking at you and thinking about how they're perceiving you in addition to how you're perceiving them. So it eliminates a lot of the sort of mental processing and mental clutter that is going on, and streamlines it into simply you focused on that other individual that you're engaged with. I've had a tiny glimpse of that for a short window of time about a year ago or so when I was meditating daily, and I had done so for I think about 3 or 4 months, and I started to experience that. I remember telling my wife about how weird it was that I've never felt this level of sort of focused connection with another human being while engaged in conversation with them as I was during that time. Normally I'm quite in my head. I'm thinking about wondering what they're thinking about and thinking about what I'm going to say next and wondering how they're thinking about what I'm saying and all those things, the sort of mental clutter that goes on. So it was really interesting because I have had a glimpse of that before, so I'm curious if I can get to that state again and maybe maintain it. It's not something that I expect to maintain constantly, but apparently if you practice it long enough, you will get to the point where when you fall out of that state and you start thinking about what the other person is, how the other person is perceiving you, then you will become aware of the fact that you have done so. It won't feel as good as the other state. So yeah, that's probably my biggest takeaways so far from listening to this podcast. Is there anything else? Maybe the idea as well that for people who initially start meditating, especially those who have a lot of anxiety or mind clutter, often they think that there is no significant thoughts going on in their head at any given time, or maybe a dialogue going on at any given time. And it's because the thoughts are so fast and furious and so intense that they're actually unaware that they're happening. And for people like that, apparently, if you sit down to meditation and they do like a retreat where they're meditating for 12 hours a day or something like that in a silent retreat, one of the first things they start to realize is it becomes very uncomfortable because they become aware of the volume of thoughts that are actually going on. I know for myself personally, it didn't take me that long to realize that there was that volume of thought going on in my head. I was acutely aware of it. The volume of thought going on in my conscious mind, being somebody who's experienced obsessive compulsive disorder, was, it seemed enormous at least. So yeah, I guess that's it. Those were the interesting takeaways thus far. I don't know if I articulated them as well as Sam Harris, probably not, but feel free to check out the podcast, that episode. It's pretty cool, interesting for sure, and I'll post a link to it. Yeah, I guess in terms of how that ties into mental health, you could see how sort of changing the way you fundamentally experience day-to-day life, or your perception of your experiences of day-to-day life, would no doubt alter the way you think and ultimately feel. So there's the mental health tie-in, and Sam Harris did touch on the fact that a lot of people come by meditation through suffering, which was interesting. I didn't know that. So a lot of people will seek meditation when they hear it is a potential tool to help with sort of the unpleasant state they find themselves within their life. And that is often a sort of mental, emotional, psychological state that they find themselves in, state of suffering, and they will then take an interest in the practice of meditation without having done so before. And I can relate to that. So yeah, that's it for today. In closing, if you're struggling at all with your mental health, talk to somebody. Who knows, if it's suffering, maybe at some point you will explore meditation. It's definitely helped me a lot. But even if you choose not to, talking to somebody is a very, very, very powerful way to set yourself on the path of wellness, mental wellness, and also, to help alleviate some of that intense anxiety or depression that might be sort of acutely occurring. You might be able to provide yourself some relief right now, here in the moment, in addition to taking on some new practices that will provide long-term benefit for your mental health. Yeah, that's it for today. Rant over, and thanks for watching. Be good to yourself. Take care.